Okay.
But I started one sometime last year, and during the MCO in Malaysia, that's when I actually did my first prototype.
Yeah, that's a good time to do.
Yeah,
to make prototypes.
Yeah, basically, you got nothing to do at home, you know.
Yeah.
In Malaysia, it was quite strict, you know, and basically it was like almost a month that I didn't really go out. 3 meals a day was in the house, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, that's the good time to take up all the all the meaningful hobbies that you don't have time to do.
things you wanted to do, you know, but so busy, you didn't have time.
Yeah.
Okay, so hang on a bit. I need to share screen so that we have a title in the recording. And then I'm going to stop my video so that it will be clean a little bit. Okay. And then I will start to record on the computer. Okay. All right. Okay. Nice. Okay. So we are having our fifth Delta chat. And Daryl has kindly said yes, although maybe not to such a like a proper official kind of thing, but you know, it started with very simple, like, hey, let's chat. Then Sunny got title screen on. So here's the title screen, and then I can stop sharing the title screen and go to where everybody is. Yeah.
All the formalities are the way.
Yeah. So thank you again, Daryl, for doing this. And as I've said earlier on, we'll try to keep this within 1 hour, and we're gonna go through some of the questions that I've broadly categorized into the five P's. So process, which actually, you know, everything is part of the process, about your process, and then we can go a little bit into the value of playtesting, but how to be not just feedback that you want to look for, but also how yourself, how can we be good play testers and give good feedback to other game designers as well. And then we'll go into pitching your game to, I don't know, in different platforms, and publishing. And then when hopefully at the end we have time for a little bit of how to protect your work. Although some of everything may be part of different parts of the
Some of
timeline.
them are interconnected.
Yeah. So okay. I also want to just mention that Cedric is the one who asked, like, hey, got jalan not to find some time with Daryl. I'm gonna let him start off with possibly the first question, if that's okay. Like I think you asked a little bit on the Facebook group, but then first question about process.
Yes, Daryl, I mean, how do you design a game? I mean, what is your starting point? You know, I mean, what is the inspiration, the starting point, and how do you develop a game from there?
Okay, so I mean, the interesting thing is that it actually evolved quite a bit for me. I mean, I've been doing this for over 10 years now. I think a lot of game designers, when they first start off, they will do theme first, right? Because it's like they find something that is very meaningful to them. Also because like when you first start out, you don't have the mechanic tool set that you need to make something like very unique mechanics. So you think of a theme, then you think of like mechanics that fit this theme. Then somehow, in some way, you can kind of like build a prototype now. Especially when you're first starting out. I think it's just important, just kind of, you know, hunt out one prototype, then you can take and test. Then, you know, you have at least something to build on. Then later on, as your toolkit of mechanics grows, then you start to do mechanics first. And that's also the time when you kind of run out of interesting themes. You know what I mean? You run out one, you can't like so yeah. So I think this is like, I mean, this is my own evolution, but I don't know if other people are different. But I feel like this is quite a common thing that quite happen to everyone, and especially because now I'm a full-time designer, so like I really run out of like interesting themes. I mean, as in like I can come out with more mechanics than themes now lah. Yeah. So that's kind of like my second stage of evolution. Then my third stage of evolution is when I come up with kind of both simultaneously. So for example, I mean, just to give an example, like the mooncake game, I came up with the mechanics, like the quarter mechanics, but then the theme also kind of informed my mechanics. So like in my mooncake game, there's like at least two things that are kind of link. There's like a linkage between theme and mechanics, and I think that when you can get to that stage, then you can have a very coherent game and a very coherent product when your theme and mechanics can start to inform each other. So I mean that's kind of what I try to aim for now in my games. I mean even kind of like fantastical games like Plantopia, I try to have like the weather the weather mechanic be very thematic. So like basically the weather affects all individual plants, and like there's like this kind of growth in a planter pot. So I try to have mechanics that feel very natural for the theme of the game that it is. So that's kind of my process. So yeah, I think I've gone through all three stages of the possible ways to kind of develop the game. And I mean, this is kind of where I am right now.
Thank you.
So, when I first heard of your name, it's actually through a call for playtest. Getting designers to playtest, So I know playtesting is a very important, and you are an advocate for game designers to do playtesting. So can you like share a little bit about the importance of it, and what are the things that you tell designers to expect or look for, or even give feedback on?
Okay. So as a game designer, actually my journey began in Canada. I lived in Canada for about 15 years. I did game design there for almost 10 years. So actually I was very fortunate to kind of, I guess, have my roots, my game design roots there. And I think my journey, I like, if I had started off in Singapore or in Asia, I'm very sure that it wouldn't have been the same. Okay, so I mean, in a nutshell, I guess you can kind of say that it's trial by fire. Because when we first started doing all of these like design meetups in Canada, so it's like a bunch of us designers. Because at the time, I mean, everyone's kind of starting out. We're just kind of playing around. But we spent, literally, we're always like, play for 30 minutes, then like bash a game for 2 hours, kind of thing. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I mean by the trial by fire. Really, but the bashing part is really where you learn a lot about the mechanics that you made and how they fail or how they succeed in different ways. As playtesters, I think, I mean, I'm trying to tie back to the playtesting thing. As playtesters, it's good to be as critical as you can, but the problem is that a lot of somehow the culture here in Asia, as opposed to America or Canada, you would kind of expect it to be the opposite, but it's true that like people here they're very sensitive about criticism. So it's almost like I don't really want to criticize people here because I know that they're just going to shut me out. And then and this has happened to so many projects that have even have launched and like success or failed. I don't know, but it's important for it to be both ways. So it's important for the playtesters to be critical, but it's important for the designers to want to receive that and grow also. And one of the reasons also is I feel that in Asia, it seems like the product is more important than the process. Whereas when we were going there, the process is more important than the product. So it's like like the first 10 games that I designed, it's basically none of them are published yet. Or maybe the first 20. None of them are even published yet. Like like the first 5 games, even the first 5 games that I got signed, somehow fell apart. And actually none of them are even the first 5. Actually, one of them is being republished now, which is Into Deep, which is on Kickstarter right now, coincidentally. So I can plug it. But yeah, so it's very important to grow as a designer. And I was very lucky to have the chance to kind of do that. So I basically sat through this trial by fire, and I just really kind of helped people to develop their games for about 5+ years before I even started to feel that my own games were worth publishing. Yeah.
Was there a time, or do you recall a particular game that really got bashed heavily, but that you felt you made it through and you
Yeah, actually too many to count. Yeah, some of them is like I spent like weeks on this game, then I like spend 1 week making it, then come out, I don't play for 10 minutes, then kena bash, and then yeah, a lot of them are really a lot. Yeah. But the thing is, even all of these failures, right? They are all part of your journey as a game designer. Even if they never get published, or like if they never see the light of day, they're still in your mind somewhere, and they're all. I mean, if you think about it, right, like any other creative pursuit, say like painting, like say that like the painting behind me, or like making videos or whatever, you will never want, or writing novels or that kind of thing, you will never want to publish the very first thing that you make, correct? I mean, yeah, so it's the same with game design. Like 10 years down the road, you may come and because everyone grows, especially if you keep doing it. So like 10 years back, you'll be like, oh, why did I even publish this game? It's so raw. So like, I mean, everyone really changes with time. So I mean, I understand that a lot of people don't have the luxury of waiting 5-10 years to kind of go through the process of growth and development. I mean, and that's why now that I have the experience that I have, I can kind of like help a lot of the designers that I still test with now, and it really helps like my overall experience. Yeah, and I mean, with that's why I'm very excited, like when I can go to say like Malaysia or like Thailand as well, and talk to designers and see, because we've all been there. Like this this journey is it's the same for everyone. Just whether like you can help speed up or not. Like, and that's kind of the same thing with the Game Artisans of Canada, which is what I was part of when I was in Canada. Like I guess the artisans that grew faster and got published faster, they really give a lot of the, I guess, the more fledgling ones the advice to grow faster also, so that they don't make the same mistakes that they did. And I think that's kind of what we should aim for in Asia, since we don't have the publishing expertise or the market expertise that the West has. I was personally lucky to kind of have all of that experience given to me as a fledgling, and also to dispense it. So I mean, I'm happy, and now I'm back in Asia. I'm happy to share it as well.
So how do you have any like guidelines or tips in order to give good feedback for a game? Are there things you look for? And then second question is like what, as a designer, what kind of, how do you pick and choose which feedback to to work on or to
Okay,
listen
so
to?
yeah, that's a very good question. It's hard to answer, but I'll try. Okay, so there's two types of feedback that a designer will need. Just to simplify it, lah. So one is feedback from designers. So what I mean is that feedback from designers as to, so when you get feedback from designers, it's a bit more of a high level one. So these are things about balance, about mechanics, about how mechanic fits theme, basically more of like, I guess, the chassis, or like like the main workings of the of the game itself. Because only game designers can see these things. Then the second level one is from gamers, or people who play, or casual people who play the games. That one you need players to play, and then they give you the experience. And sometimes okay, so I mean, the thing about designers is that I mean, as long as you have a designer that like they're very vocal, and and like you trust each other, and you can freely say what you want. But for a casual gamer, or like I mean, not even a gamer, or like is this someone who could be your target market, you won't get that kind of feedback, that fully fleshed out feedback. Sometimes you will need to read their faces. You need to read their body language. You need to kind of have prompted questions to kind of see what they like about game, what they don't like about game. Yeah, so as a designer, I think both of these both sources of these feedback are very important for you to fine tune the game to the next level.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so since we started, a whole bunch of people have joined us. Hi everybody. We are kind of going through, we're trying to keep to 1 hour. And if you see in the chat, then I've kind of written down the broad categories of the whole thing, which is we talked about the whole process, about playtesting. We're going into pitching, unless someone else has any questions about playtesting. Then after that, we'll be publishing and protecting your game. So okay, yeah, it's supposed to be a chat. So feel free to just unmute yourself or show yourself and ask a question. Anybody else has any questions about playtesting?
Daryl, when we say playtest, how many rounds of playtest is sufficient?
Okay, this one is a question that I cannot answer because every game is different. This is something that the game designer has to decide. For me personally, if there's even something that I feel that isn't fully resolved, I won't think it's sufficient. That's for me lah. So like, if I feel that there is everything, there are no loose ends in the game. That's when I that's when I kind of say, okay, that's it. Let's and every game is different also. Like, so for example, like In Too Deep, for example, until now, if you tell me that, oh, I don't know, there's like a possibility that there is an ending that doesn't work, um, I would accept it. And but there are games like Overbooked, for example. I did the math for it in 6 hours, and I never looked back since then. Because I know for sure that there are no ways for players to escape these parameters that have been laid out. Yeah, so like it really depends on the game.
So basically, you play test until you feel there are no loose ends.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else has any questions about playtesting, or for those who just join us, maybe if you want to go back to Daryl's process, if he's answered the question already, then he'll probably say, "Oh, I answered that, so watch the recording." But if there's any other process questions, you can also ask them.
Yeah.
Malaysians
we can move
are a
on.
bit shy, Daryl.
Sorry?
Malaysians are a bit shy.
Okay, so we'll go to.
Because we're not kawan yet.
Yeah. Again, feel free to show yourselves. I actually usually put myself off, but then that will mean Daryl will be looking at blank spaces, except for maybe Cedric. So, I'm giving myself on. So if some of you want to come on, so that he sees faces, that'd be great as well. Okay, so okay, let's go to pitching.
Okay.
So maybe anybody want to start? If not, then I will read Hua Xiang's comment on the post. If I don't hear from anybody, okay. So Hua Xiang asked or said he would just want to know more about he talks about pitching and publishing together, so we can do that. He wants to know more about the publishing climate, like are there dangerous low life sharks that lurk amongst the publishers, and have you ever been taken advantage of from any lowball deals? Wants to know how you feel about your pitching and publishing process. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, remember just now I mentioned that the first 5 games that I signed never got to fruition, right? Yeah, so basically some of these are through some like not so like less reputable publishers, or like not so experienced ones. Some of them actually not their fault. But yeah, like when you first starting out, you're just happy that any publisher would take it, right? So yeah, like you are just happy to get a game out, and I mean that's also fine, because I mean, as long as you are okay with it, sometimes it's good just to get one or two games out. Then you can kind of build some confidence. And but if you're a type of designer that like, oh, this is my masterpiece, I don't want to give it to anyone, then if you think that it's something that you really want to keep for yourself, then you yourself should publish it. I'm talking more like like for me, because I knew right from the beginning that I'm not just going to publish one game. I mean, if you see, like, yeah, in the past past 2 years, I have like 10 plus games already. I don't mind, because I think it's part of the experience. but there's a bit of a catch here because it's like when you're first starting out, the big publishers won't want to talk to you also. So you may need to go through these small publishers. And then if you want to do it by yourself, sometimes you also don't have the capability to do it. So it's very rough. It's very rough when you're first starting out. I understand. I've been there also. I mean, as I mentioned, the first 5 games, may not see the light of day. But but just take it as part of the learning journey as being a designer. One thing you need is very tough skin. So that's why, as I mentioned, the trial by fire is really very, very important because being I think having this tough skin to get the criticism, and then also later on from publishers is a very important skill to have if you want to make it further. Because, I mean, you can always think of it as like, no, there's no such thing as a perfect game. And your game will never be perfect. My games are not perfect. I understand. They can always be improved. So there's always going to be criticisms from every step of the way. Even after a game is published, people will say, hey, how come this game got this loophole? Or why is it not as fun as I thought it would be? Or people always there will be criticisms all the way down, all the way up, all the way down. Just got to deal with all of these things in your stride. It's part and parcel of being game designer because you can never make everyone happy also. So in terms of, I think people ask, how's the pitching process like for overseas publishers, right? I mean, I was very lucky to be in North America at the time, so I could go to conventions and I can meet people and I can talk with them. I think most important thing is get to know publishers, talk to them. I know it's very difficult if you're from Malaysia or from Asia, but if you have the chance, you can just go to conventions and talk to people. So then when you actually approach people, it's not out of the blue. I mean, it's sad but true, but a lot of these publishing connections is really, a lot of it is by human connection. You really need to network on. You need to be, even if you are just like, say, a fan of this publisher, then you talk to them, you say, I like your game, break the ice a bit. All of these really help, so that it's not just someone out of the blue. Because especially the bigger publishers, I think they probably get like submissions every day, or you know what I mean. So it's a long journey, so that's all I can say. And it starts with networking.
And how did you come to? What made you set up your own publishing?
Okay. So Origame carries with it. So all the games from Origame, basically, I wanted to make games that represent us, represent Asia, represent Singapore, represent Malaysia, and no other company, even in Asia, does that I know of. And I think it's very important to make games that tell our stories, make games that kind of help us cultivate this hobby amongst non-gamers. And that's what I want Origame to do. And I mean, also, I mean, I still am doing designs for a lot of overseas publishers and even local publishers, but the games that are thematically closest to my heart, those are the ones that I will publish for myself. And since publishing my own games, I've learned a lot Mainly the main thing being that when I was a game designer, I just look at games as games. But as a publisher, I look at games as products. And I think that also kind of put me in the position that now if I want to pitch something to a publisher, I will almost, I know I will have a much higher success rate because I already know what kind of things they'll ask me already. You know what I mean? Even so, I can preempt a lot of questions. Because for the publisher, so it's because it's almost like the uh, the designer makes games for the publisher, then publisher makes games for the consumer. So the publishers are like a translator in a way. So as a publisher, I also pay a lot of attention now to when they consume my games. What is difficult for them? What do they find fun? What is the experience like? How can I improve this experience? So this really helped me a lot as I like because the last time I was just I mean I wouldn't say that it's like an ivory tower, but like I just hang around designers. I didn't really get, remember that I mentioned that two-pronged feedback. I only got like the kind of like the higher level one. Sometimes the higher level one kind of goes in loops as well. But when you go to the ground, when you talk to people and you see them play your games, that's that's a whole another experience. Yeah.
So
Sorry,
does that mean are you,
there was another related question where the question was how much does market trend affect a designer's design?
Okay, so uh it definitely affects somehow. So for example, the roll and write trend, right? Like, so like last year I made like 3 roll and write games. For example, but I don't think that because and also the thing about board games is that the cycle is there's always this kind of time lapse on. So like for example, the roll and write trend was hot last year ago. Then like if people are designing it last year, then they release this year, they already kind of missed the trend already. So I feel like you should try to make games that you think will sell, but you shouldn't go so much off your way to kind of like hop onto any bandwagon, so to speak, because a lot of people will be doing that, and then by that time, yours will just be kind of
Wow.
a spec. Yeah, like just kind of another bandwagoner. But good games, no matter what, are good lah. So you don't have to worry too much about the market trends in that sense.
so there's a question from Ethan. And I actually wanted to ask this question as well.
Okay.
So as a publisher, now with Origame, would you consider looking at games from other designers from Malaysia, from Singapore, or even in the region? And if yes, what would you look for? What are your requirements?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just one designer. I design all the games for Origame, and I probably have enough games for like the next few years already. Yeah, because this is what I do right now, like all the time. But I'm always happy to see other people's designs. Even if not to publish, is to kind of help them grow as well. If it fits our identity, I'll definitely consider publishing. So right now, that we have like a regular playtesting group, and one of the games actually is mainly designed by another designer, but I helped to develop it, and it's going to be the first game that the main name is not mine. So yeah, if there are games like that, I'm happy just to kind of either be the second name on the box or like the playtest, like under game development. Yeah.
Okay, so Evan has asked, what are the most common questions usually asked during pitching?
Okay, so as in, I'm assuming that like a publisher's asking you when you do pitching. um, okay, that one is a bit tough because I think it depends on the game. But I think it kind of ties back to what I said just now about your game being a product. So a lot of times the designer sees the game as a design, but they don't see it as a product. So a lot of the questions will be kind of related to the publisher kind of asking you, how can I make this more from a game into a product? Like, can I add all these flashy pieces? Can I adjust the backstory to make it more interesting? Can you add things to make it, you know, up the flash level, up the wow factor, the kind of thing. Because most people they come and pitch games, they will have a solid game, but they may not have a game that can sell, or at least in the eyes of the publisher. So the publisher needs to be confident that this game can sell to the public. So they'll always ask questions like that, like how can I make sure that this game will sell more? Yeah, I mean, of course they won't use those words, but all the questions will have that meaning. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anybody else wants to ask questions directly? Just unmute yourself and then you can ask a question.
Hi Daryl. Yeah.
Hello.
Nicholas. Yeah, I
Hi.
like to ask about just now you're talking about pitching to publishers.
Mm.
So would having like doing like market surveys on your play testing, it means like giving people a survey form, asking them to fill out to see whether they enjoyed it, rate it, and stuff like that. Do publishers look at such data? Would it be helpful to present them such stuff, or is just like you just go ahead with your presentation?
Okay. I mean, personally, as a publisher, I wouldn't really care about such thing because, okay, so one of the issues is that when you don't have established playtest networks, like if you're just playtesting with casual people or like all the Cepalang people or like anyone just find off like your friends or whatever, it's very hard to be unbiased. So I think one of the pitfalls that all of the designers have is that because they don't have any unbiased people, and that's what a really good playtest environment will do for you. It gives you access to this kind of playtesters. If you're asking your friends questions, they're not going to say anything that will jeopardize your friendship. They will always say, "Oh, this thing is good. This game is good. I will buy it. I will buy to support you or whatever." And so a lot of designers will fall into this trap. Oh, how come all my friends say that my game is good, but you don't say that it's good? And it's like 20 against 1, so you must be the wrong one. So if the market survey, you can manage to do a very unbiased one, like basically not asking any of your friends, asking like very off the street kind of people, definitely then there's a lot more value there. But if there's no way to kind of show that it's unbiased, then it's basically showing the publisher like a petition. These are all my friends that think that you should sign my game. You know what I mean? Yeah. And hopefully if you can kind of build up like the playtesting environment and like conventions. So for example, like if you have those sort of like playtesting conventions in the US, where people just come in and they play test and then they just give honest feedback and they don't know the designer. They're just there to give honest feedback and to give like a preference. That kind of thing can be very useful for publishers.
Okay, right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully that was the answer you were looking for.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to know because I did a survey before, so sometimes I wonder whether is it going to be useful or not. It's very important. I mean, it's very interesting that you pointed that sometimes we test among our peers and
yeah.
we get biased.
Yeah.
But then again, identifying the perfect platform to test out, you get valid test samples. I think that's crucial to game development.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that all of your friends are going to give you, like dishonest feedback. Sometimes you, especially like when you have a really good group of friends, they can be very honest and with you. But I mean, it's just kind of the general thing, especially when you're playing with people who don't have a lot of game experience. Like all the games, like all the friends that I play with, they've been playing games for like 10, 15 years, so like, and they're very honest with me. If if you can find people like that is definitely not what I was talking about. I'm not talking about like your people that if you can't find like real designers and playtesters, just kind of random friends of yours, that may not be the best way to get feedback.
Okay, got it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else want to unmute themselves and say something and ask something? If not, then I'm just gonna look at the. Oh, did someone say something?
Nope.
Okay.
No, but can I ask something, Daryl?
Sure.
It's interesting that now you said where the theme is close to your heart, you will self-publish.
For every game, yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of these themes that other publishers won't publish. I mean, for me, the ones that kind of represent my culture, those are the ones that I'll publish.
So the ones where you publish, I mean, okay, to put it very simply, if you were to pitch to a publisher, do you pitch your A game or B game?
Sorry, say it again.
Do you pitch your best game or your second best game?
Oh, I think this depends also because I think you should always pitch a game that is most likely that the publisher will publish, and that depends on each publisher because like I remember like I have this huge portfolio of games that I brought around to like Gen Con. But the first game out for each publisher may be a different one because of the type of game that they have. But actually one of the mistakes that I made also was that so for example, if say like a publisher only publish heavy games, then you pitch them heavy games, then they will be like, oh, we have too many heavy games already. We were looking for a light game. So cannot take it for granted one. Sometimes got to ask them also. Yeah. So actually for me, I will have a portfolio and then I will kind of talk to them a little bit and ask them, what kind of game are you looking for currently? Then I will take that one and pitch to them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sort of related. A number of designers or Asian designers have
Yep.
said that have referred to you as a successful game designer. So
I think only Cedric.
maybe some think so, but they don't say it lah. So he had also posted like, what is your benchmark, or how do you respond to that? What is your benchmark for a successful designer? What are your aspirations as to be, to go to the next level? And and maybe mention some of the games that you feel you're really happy about, and you would consider them
Okay.
as successful.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Um. Yeah. I mean, thanks, Cedric. But I mean, I feel like I'm. I mean, remember as I mentioned, like as a game designer, can never feel overly content with what you're doing. So like I never, I always have to be my own worst critic, and so I always feel like I'm always one step shy of where I want to go. And even now, I mean, even though like right now I have like two pretty good games on Kickstarter and some more to come, but I'm still always kind of feeling that there's still another level that I can reach in my game design. um, but I mean I think in terms of visibility, I mean, and also how you guys actually want to come and look for me, I think I'm a lot more visible now. um I think that's kind of one of the measures lah. And I'm also learning that um that's a very important thing about being a game designer, like having your games out there and having people play them. um so to me, like, so for example, like for example, Copy King, like we had like 3 or 4 thousand games, about 3,000 to 3,000 sold in 1 month. And that didn't really hit me that much, but like uh just an Instagram post about like there was this mom who likes to comment on our games. She said, like her kid woke her up at 6 a.m. and wants to play Copy King. And like that hits me harder than the actual sales figures. So I mean, and also like the first time I went to Essen, and then I actually had like an autograph session, and I thought no one would show up, but actually a lot of kids came and to sign for me to sign a copy of Overbook. So to me, I think it was a success because like all of these like young generation of kids are playing my games, and it's meaningful to them, so it's meaningful to me also. So that's how I measure my own success. Is I never really, I mean, of course the money is important because I need to survive, and I need to survive so that I can do this even longer. But the successful part to me is never about the money. It's about these experiences that you create for people, and that they will remember for you know so when you play board games as a kid, a lot of times you, even until now, you can still remember times when you played games as a kid. So you're actually creating memories, and you can still remember it for many years to come. And I think to me that's what is a successful thing.
So, I mean, you won't base your success on your sales.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that you definitely need to have that to some measure lah. And oh wait, you got a question about winning awards. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I feel like if you're creating good game experiences, everything else will kind of come fall in line. Because then people want to play your games, then people will want to experience it more. They want to promote to their friends. That will lead to more sales. That will lead to more visibility. That will allow you to have more potential to win awards. I was just nominated for like one of the Dutch game of the year. So
So,
I was really happy about that.
which game?
But I mean, I feel like these should not be your measures. I mean, it can be, but like, I mean, it's not mine. I feel like once you start to create games that are meaningful for people, everything else will kind of fall in line.
Thank you.
Cool.
Hi, Daryl. Just one more question.
Sure.
Actually, two actually. Okay, the first question is, what are the strategies that you use to build your distribution channels abroad? So I understand that within the Singapore sphere, I think reaching out to the Southeast Asian region is pretty easy. But when we talk about marketing it over to like Germany, US, America, UK as well, so it's a different ball game. So
Yeah.
what are the strategies to
I
get your
mean,
games abroad?
when I figure out, I'll let you know lah. So until now, that's something that we are working on. But networking is very important. So finding allies overseas takes time lah. You need to kind of cultivate relationships, and sometimes there are relationships just from like going out and meeting people. I mean now cannot lah because of COVID, but when you go to conventions and you meet people, that's how you build connections to go overseas. And I mean, getting visibility is important. So like for me now, I can, I have like some good selling games that I can point to. Distributors need to know that your game can sell. Then they're more likely to kind of follow on. So I mean, it's a bit of a vicious cycle lah. But I think networking can solve some of the issues at least.
Okay.
So you had the follow up, right?
Yeah, just another second question is how sustainable is it to be a self-publisher? Because I know a lot of us are trying to either get our games published by a publisher, or if you want to just skip that part, we just publish on our own. But it is a challenging journey because I just released my own game. So yeah, it is a challenging journey. Thank you. Yeah. So I just want to know how sustainable is it, and what are the pitfalls, and how do you overcome them to make sure that you are remain sustainable? A lot of us, we don't have the luxury of doing this full time, doing it on a part-time basis. And
Actually,
yeah.
related to that is like, how do you know when, like what, or when did you decide that, okay, I'm going to go full time as a game designer?
Okay, I mean, I can't really speak for everyone, but this is what I did lah. Basically, I started off all of you. I kind of first it was a hobby, then it was kind of a jobby. Then last year when my contract ended as a and I kind of had a lot of opportunities to kind of do game design almost then I realized that there is a potential for me to at least survive on this. So then that's how I took the leap. And I mean it's been fine so far. In fact, that was the best decision I made probably. Because it's almost like I'm retired now in a way. But I think it's different for everyone. It's hard for me to kind of say when you should kind of do it full time or when you shouldn't. I think you need to kind of play around and see how well your game sells. Because I mean sometimes you can sell games through different means. Like if you can hit like a good niche market, or like like if you have a good marketing angle for games, they don't have to be your best games, but as long as they sell, that's the only thing that matters. I mean, in terms of like keeping it sustainable for you. So I think the important thing is if you're really looking at this as a full-time job or like or part-time job, you need to find games that have a market. So games that you can make and you're quite certain that people can buy, that will buy. Sometimes that involves using IPs or creating IP and kind of like using that, or like making games that are like you're sure that people will be curious enough to try out. I mean, if there's a foolproof way I would like to know also. but I mean, these are just my.
I'll share with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy lah. So I think my best advice is like, you just take it one step at a time. Don't go full time until you're sure that. And even if you go full time, you should always have a backup.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your question.
Daryl, sorry. People like us, we're just starting out, we're designing our first board game, and we don't know whether people will like it or not. I mean, we play tests, but we really never know whether there's a ready market out there.
Yeah.
Is it important then to have a sort of people like you who can help us to gauge and see, or just tell us, okay, this game will never make it, or you will say things like, it's interesting, I think people will find it interesting,
Yeah, I mean, I think as much as possible. I mean, you guys have a very, very nice group going. I mean, I was able to join a couple of times. Maybe not the main events, but some. This is the first step, lah. I mean, try to get people to give you feedback. It's really hard to kind of say what games will sell and what doesn't, especially in a young market like Malaysia and in Singapore. But I think if you make games that are true to yourself, at least you make these games, and they will have something of yourself, like something that you're proud of. Then at least you can say that I did this, and even if you don't do anything else after, you can be proud that that's something that you actually did this one time.
That's what I'm doing now, because if nobody else has enjoyed the game, at least I would.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the playtesters come in, and that's where your group or this group, they will help you out.
Shock sendiri.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, anybody else would like to ask questions?
Daryl, sorry, if nobody's asking, this time you mentioned IP is basically, maybe you're talking about a brand. I mean, it goes more than that, an intellectual property.
Yeah.
How do you protect your games?
Okay, so IP, I think there's really so many things to worry about as a fledgling game designer. I think IP is probably the least thing we need to worry about, but so things like mechanics you cannot copyright. Okay, and I mean that's why. But of course, if you copy another game, everyone's gonna know, and no one's gonna buy your game. The things you can protect are the names of your game, your artwork, things like that you can protect. So yeah, if you are going to spend a lot of money on that, you can think about paying to copyright this. But game mechanics you can never copyright, like rolling dice or whatever. This is very universal, so you can't do it. Yeah, but yeah, don't worry too much about this.
I have a question about like the IP kind of like the IP kind of like realm again. One of the great use case was how Rainer Knizia do with his modern art. Do you know any like backstory about how he did that? It seems that all the publishers got like his like kind of like that game published by their publisher, and then how did he make money from it? That's a question. How did he make money from it, and then how did he do that?
Knizia is quite smart in the sense that he always sell the rights to his game, and sometimes it's not exclusive. And I mean, if you're a famous designer, you can do that, because like people are just happy to, even if not exclusive, they will take and publish. So Knizia is actually still making money from all the modern art. I mean, he's not dead yet, and so he's definitely making money from it. As if you have a really good game, good mechanics, you can do that also. But I think you need to be a famous designer. But most of the contracts that come now is always exclusivity to it. So you probably won't be able to do that lah. Yeah.
So basically, what he did was he kind of like licensed his game
Yeah,
to
correct.
publishers. Oh, okay. So
It's the same thing as what we're doing. It's just that it's not exclusive. Also, like basically,
right.
one publisher can take it, but another one else can take it, and you can keep selling it as long as publishers want to publish it.
Right. So what he's doing, he actually licensed the whole game, but not the artwork and stuff lah. Right. Okay. Makes sense.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Choon has said has asked any good way to find good playtest groups. Maybe you mean criteria that we should be looking for, I think.
This is a very hard thing to do. It's maybe the hardest thing because you really need to kind of develop it as you go along. So like for me, as I mentioned, like my group was formed over like 10 years, and then the moment I moved back to Singapore, I have to start a new one. So because they all can't move back with me to Singapore, right? So I basically had started from scratch two playtest groups that, but now I think the Singapore one, they are almost at the level where I can all the feedback they give me is very illuminating, so to speak. This one is all from experience one. Very hard to say. It helps if these people they love games and they are gamers and they don't mind playing games. You don't need them to be game designers. I mean, of course that helps, but yeah, it takes time. Takes time. But I mean, you might as well start early and start cultivating it as soon as you can. I mean, you guys already have a group lah, at least. So you can start from there.
Cool. Okay, anybody else want to ask any questions? No? Okay, Okay, so Cedric, last chance.
You cannot think already, all answered already.
Everything answered. Okay.
I mean, can you maybe share with us a bit about marketing? Because I mean, as for my first game, I decided to self up. It's very close to my heart. But as a person who's just doing his first game, we have no idea of marketing. And in Malaysia, we can't go through Kickstarter, and there are a few more challenges in Malaysia.
I think you guys use social media a lot, right? I mean, you can use your social media. I think important thing is to kind of find groups that take your game more than others. So for example, for every game, one of the groups that we are actually quite popular with are like, say, young families. So doing marketing to young families, for example, helps as well. Like if we reach out to, say, like bloggers or influencers that reach your target group, and get them to do like giveaways of games and things like that. I think that's that helps us. So you need to identify where you can sell your game and then kind of hit that.
For every $10, which I mean, for every $10 of the cost of your game, how much is your marketing?
That one very hard to say. I mean, even for us, right? We are actually very poor at marketing. Like Origame, our visibility is very low because our team is small and we really spend most of our time doing production and kind of. So like for 1 year, no one knew that we existed. But then suddenly, yeah. So actually, our marketing is something that you probably don't want to learn from us because we're also kind of learning as we go. So, but at least what I share with you is kind of like what I would have wanted to know also if I was setting out.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
sorry, next question. Because I missed like 80% of the call of the video. I think.
Yeah.
Is it better to be published by someone else, or is it better to publish it by yourself?
It's a good question. If it's something that you really feel strongly about and you think no one else can help you do it, then you should publish yourself. Because especially if you're because like all the games that I give other people to publish, you sacrifice some of the the control you have, right? So if you really feel very strongly about a game and you want to take it all the way, then you should do yourself, because only you can do that. But if it's something that just want to kind of get your game out there, not too concerned, then yeah, it's fine. Just let someone else publish.
On another question is, if you, for instance, I don't have any like money or capital to start to publish, or probably like getting people to publish my game. So how did you usually do? Like, for instance, did you get sponsors or something like that? Or do you do like an angel round or something? Or do you always have like that 20,000 like you're already like, okay, so I already have like a 20,000 SGD like standing by first for a game, like for instance, I have a game. Thank God I have 30,000 in my bank right now.
I mean that's kind of what Kickstarter is for, I think. I mean, sadly, I think Malaysia doesn't have, but I think that was kind of one of the ways that indie. I think Indiegogo maybe can do it, right? But Indiegogo's not very, like, it can't really get much. Yeah, it's hard lah. This is kind of an issue also for first-time designers, especially when you do self-publishing. You need to find a way to get the money if you believe very strongly in it. I mean, for us also, when we start our company, we use our own capital.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay, anybody else? Come on. Okay, well, then we can end it here. I know this whole 1 hour has been full of great tips and all, but if there's one last thing you would like to share.
I mean, you guys can always contact me anytime on my Facebook if you have any other questions.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories and your experience with us. Really appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much, Daryl. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Choon Ean, for organizing.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.